Welcome back for another episode of the Cinema MD podcast. My name is Matt.
And I'm Dana.
And today it is Scary Clown Day. We are talking about It, which basically blew up the box office and exceeded everybody's expectations. I'm going to be honest, when I saw the trailer for this movie, I kind of thought it was going to be a giant piece of shit, and it kind of blew me away.
As some of you may or may not know, I try to avoid trailers, sometimes at all costs, because I feel like a poorly made trailer can ruin an excellent film and give too much away. So when I did see this trailer in the theater for another movie, I was trying to look away and cover my eyes, not because I was scared, but because I didn't want to have too many of those, Pennywise appearances to be ruined for me. But I will say, having seen the trailer and then seeing the movie, that was not the case. Excellent film.
Yeah, I think all around, everybody that was a part of this movie did a great job. The director, Andy Muschietti, his previous film, Mama, was kind of overlooked, and it wasn't the greatest movie in the world, but I think it was a quality horror movie that really kind of paved the way for what he did with It. Just the kind of the set design, the kind of impending sense of doom that was kind of prevalent. There was everything seemed very dark and ominous, and there was just kind of like this sense of dread throughout the movie that kind of kept you on edge. And obviously there were some pretty good jump scares as well, but the movie didn't have to rely on those to get scares or to make people uneasy, and it wasn't necessarily the scariest movie. I don't think that's the case here. I don't really think that's what they were going for either.
No, I had no trouble falling asleep at the end of the night. I would say I'm pretty desensitized to horror films at this point in my life, but there was definitely a time where something like this would have freaked me out more. Movies I can recall in the past, like, actually having an effect on me, for whatever reason, years ago, Pan's Labyrinth, the, scary eyeball hand dude really freaked me out. But, I wouldn't say that I was scared by that movie. Same thing with this one. I think that it was, spooky and you were uneasy, but it was really more just kind of a dark coming-of-age film, I thought.
Yeah, it had as much in common with something like Stand By Me or, I guess I've mentioned like Stand By Me and Goonies, but I think it does have a lot in common with something like Stand By Me, where you've got some dark things going on. It's like it is a dark coming of age story. You've got obviously more supernatural elements involved in this than you do in something with Stand By Me, but you've still got young kids that are kind of getting into a situation that they're not fully prepared to deal with. In this case, it's a clown monster. In Stand By Me, it's finding a dead body. And in both cases, there are basically super evil teenage bullies that want to murder people.
Yeah, Stephen King has got a thing about bullies. I don't know if he was bullied. I would maybe imagine so, because he's got some unresolved issues, I think.
Yeah, this goes far beyond the bully stuffing a kid into a locker. It seems like in Stephen King movies / books, the bullies they all have knives, they all have guns, and they want to kill the nerds. Like, that's their goal in life. They don't give a fuck about anything else. Their futures are written in stone. They're gonna kill somebody. That is their future.
I think Stephen King is interesting, too, in the way he writes adults in books where children or kids are the main focus. It seemed like the adults were not really out to help anybody in this film either. Like, you were on your fucking own.
Yeah, I mean, and they never address this either, because in this case, basically all of the adults, they're not even incompetent. They're flat out bad people. It's not like they don't care about their kids. They're like downright bad to their kids. If they're not bad to their kids, then they're not important enough to even be included in the story, basically.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that if they're not evil. They're just not there. They're not present at all.
And yeah, that's just maybe that was something that Stephen King had going on in his life. I don't really know, but for the purposes of the movie, it works. The movie's about kids kind of uh, in between childhood and adulthood, kind of at that weird age, and a lot of the movie deals with that, and the way it deals with it is obviously through this kind of, in a way, it's these symbolic situations that they have to deal with Pennywise showing up. Of course, they're not dreaming these things. I mean, these are like real. This is a real monster they have to kill or maim or whatever, banish back to the hole in the ground that it came from. Apparently, I don't really know. I didn't read the book, so
I'm starting. Well, I'm a good way into the book. And I did see the miniseries as a kid, which is so funny to think about now because I was terrified of that. I think I was 7 years old when I saw that. And obviously Tim Curry is terrifying in that role. Now, if you try to go back and watch that, it is not rewatchable. It is very cringy. It's an 80s made-for-TV movie. It's pretty bad.
Well, it's goofy. I mean, Tim Curry, they didn't have the luxury of a budget or special effects. So their Pennywise is scary because Tim Curry in clown makeup is scary. That's it. The casting of Tim Curry is the only reason that had any sort of longevity whatsoever. In this movie, you've got Bill Skarsgård cast as Pennywise, who I'm going to be perfectly honest, I was skeptical of from the start. I'm pleasantly surprised to say that he did a really good job. And you know, he didn't go over the top with it. There were obviously some CG kind of things done to make him more monstrous at times, which the made-for-TV movie didn't have, and I think that really benefited this movie in a lot of ways. It in the right times, like I think this is a case where CG over practical effects was necessary, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, because it was just a touch of CG. It wasn't over the top. I think it was used judiciously, so I think that was good. I think this story, too, obviously I haven't finished the book yet, but it does seem to be truer to the book. In the miniseries, in the beginning, and you know, not giving too much away here, but, you know, sort of the iconic scene with Georgie and his yellow rain slicker looking down into the storm drain at Pennywise, they kind of leave it up to your imagination as to what happens to him. It's clear, but you don't see anything. Whereas in this movie, as well as in the book, it is spelled right out for you. You get to see exactly what happens. So I thought that was kind of cool that they stuck with the book on that because, yeah, the book is pretty horrifying so far.
And this is another one of those movies where I gotta say that the entire cast did a pretty stellar job. You are dealing with, they're not like little kid actors, but you're still dealing with an entire cast of adolescent actors, I guess I would say. And that's always going to be a big question mark because sometimes they can be just awful and really ruin a good movie otherwise. In this case, they were all really great. There were some standouts. I don't remember her name. I looked it up. I forgot. The girl that plays Beverly, though, the redhead, who basically looks like a miniature Amy Adams, she was awesome. I thought she really kicked ass, and along with Finn Wolfhard, who plays Richie, and he's in Stranger Things also. Those were the two standouts for me. Everyone did a good job, but those were definitely my two favorite characters in the movie. That's based on script. That's based on what they're given to do in the movie, and also on solid performances.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of fun too. After the movie, I kind of like to speculate if they had switched those characters around, or those actors, I should say, obviously excluding Beverly here, but if you had taken, the other actors and put them in the other kids' roles, I think they all still would have done a pretty good job. It wasn't necessarily a situation where each kid was super typecast. I think you could have mixed them up and it still would have been just as good.
I don't want to be the one to say it, but the fat kid had to be the fat kid.
Okay, the fat kid had to be the fat kid. Body positivity, okay?
Hey, listen, nothing wrong with that. I've seen the miniseries. He shapes up. All right? Spoiler alert, he shapes up. He's not fat in the second part. Spoiler alert, there's a second part.
Yeah, that was another treat seeing this movie in a theater full of teenagers. We got to listen to the scared giggles behind us, which was really more endearing than anything else. At the end of the movie, obviously not giving anything away here, screen is black, it says it, and then as it fades up onto the screen, it says chapter 1, and you can hear all these youngins going, chapter 1, there's another one, oh my god! So, obviously, you guys are tiny babies and you didn't read the book or see the miniseries and we're old.
Pretty much, yeah. I do want to say I thought it was a great audience reaction to the movie. It was definitely a lot of people that weren't familiar with the material. That being said, I thought it was great that there were a lot of kind of nervous giggles going on whenever there was a decent jump scare or creepy moment. I think it's underrated. You're not going to get screams in a theater anymore. People might jump a little bit, but people are desensitized largely to horror movies. But when you hear those giggles, I mean, that means that people are uncomfortable and they're giggling because they don't feel safe or they don't feel comfortable at the moment, and they're laughing to kind of make themselves feel better about what's happening. And I think that's a good sign for a scary movie or for a horror movie of any type. When that happens, it means that you're making people uncomfortable. You're doing your job. They have to laugh to kind of release those endorphins that make them feel better. So I thought it was a really good screening, and I thought that the reaction that the audience had that we were with was really good and indicative of the success the movie had. And I think it's going to have legs going into October too. This is a movie that people are probably going to want to see twice. And I think it's going to continue making money through October and probably end up being one of the best box office horror movies of all time when it's all said and done. And I think the second part, as long as they don't completely fuck it up, will be absolutely monster as well.
Yep, I'm totally in agreement here. If I had to rate this, I would definitely give it a 9 out of 10. I mean, I really didn't have any real qualms with it. I thought it was excellent. I hesitate to give out the perfect score quite yet because it's early on, but 9 out of 10, I'd say.
Fuck you. 10 out of 10. I'll give it a perfect score. I think it was great. I have nothing negative to say about this movie. I think it was tightly scripted. I thought the score complemented it well. I thought the acting was great. I thought the special effects were good enough and they weren't overused. Good enough. They were actually pretty good. Even when there was obviously CG, it wasn't obviously CG. If you know what I mean, it had that feel that it was there, that it was tangible, that you get with practical effects. It was well done because they didn't overuse it. It was an awesome movie. I think it was kind of like the perfect storm. The director, just handled everything perfectly. You got a great actor that came in and kind of made Pennywise his own, and you've got these great child actors, adolescent actors, teenager actors, whatever they are. They were great. And I usually hesitate to give such a high score to a part 1 of, a series, essentially. But in this case, if they never made part 2, this movie stands alone. It's a complete story.
Yes, absolutely. I would say that. It does, stand alone, start to finish as its own story. So they definitely will make part 2 because of the success already of what's going on. So I do have high hopes for that. I think it's going to be great. But if, the world ends and it's just part 1, we're good.
Well, and that was a conscious decision. They weren't sure it was going to do well. They filmed it the way they did in that they only did... They basically shot it linearly. Instead of going back and forth between young characters and adult characters as they do in the book and the miniseries, this is done in chronological order. We only get the child characters. So we're basically going to get the full story of the characters as children here. and then we're going to get the full story of them as adults in the sequel. So I think both movies are going to work really well. This one's going to work better as a standalone, obviously, because the second one, you're probably going to have a lot of character motivations that you're not going to understand if you haven't seen the first one. But all said and done, this was basically the perfect horror coming-of-age story.
You are a sucker for those.
I love a good coming-of-age story. I do. I really do. But this was a fucking great movie. I loved it. 10 out of 10. Everyone has already seen it, so I'm sure you've already seen it if you're listening to this. But if you haven't, go see it. And maybe go see it again. Maybe read the book. Maybe watch the original just to see Tim Curry. I don't know.
The book is real long, though. just forewarning.
It's only your life, and it's only pages. Just deal with it. It's fine. It's a book. You can read it. All right. That's going to do it for our review of It. I think we've pretty much nailed everything about that movie. It was great. We're going to get into a movie that I was a little more disappointed in. And I was disappointed in it because it's a sequel to one of my favorite movies ever in the world. And that is Goon, Last of the Enforcers. If you're not familiar with the movie Goon, it's on Netflix. It stars Seann William Scott. It's about hockey. And it is hilarious. It's right up there with Slapshot as, the best hockey movie of all time. It's up there as one of the greatest sports comedies of all time. And there are a lot of great sports comedies. I mean, it is up there with Major League, Caddyshack, Bull Durham. It's awesome. It is vulgar. It is violent. It's hilarious. It's basically like if Judd Apatow made a hockey movie. That's kind of the reference I can give you. And if you haven't seen it, go watch it on Netflix. It's well worth the watch. The sequel is not on Netflix yet. You can rent it on like Amazon Prime. Probably other streaming services as well have it available to purchase, which is what I did. I would say wait on this one, quite honestly. For someone that loves the first one so much, I came into this one with really high expectations, and it did let me down. I'm going to be honest. It just wasn't as funny.
Yes, coming from someone, who doesn't participate in the sports or really watch the sports that much, I knew that this was, going to be a big deal for Matt. He did make me watch Goon when we first started dating, and it is a good movie. It is funny. I do enjoy it. Honestly, I have kind of a hard time sitting through it because the fighting scenes I feel like are a little bit realistic for me, which is kind of funny to think about. There's a lot of getting punched in the face and a lot of like blood, slow motion out onto the ice and teeth flying, and it just, I find that harder to watch than horror movies, quite honestly. But the first one is funny. It's a goofy, entertaining movie. This one was okay. It seemed like they were trying a little too hard. They took some characters to more extremes, which I hate that they do that in sequels, or I find like in TV shows too, as they go on, the character becomes more concentrated, like they become more of whatever their quirky quirks are, and it's like it just is unnecessary.
You're making the Friends anecdote.
I am referring to Friends, yes. Just real quick as a side note here, if you look at Monica and Friends in the beginning of that show, she was kind of like the cool one. Like she was, had more of a sarcastic bite. And by the end, she's a neurotic mess. Like, I don't understand where they went with that. But it kind of feels the same in Goon 2. Like, you have some, don't have their life together characters. And in this one, they've just even gone further down the shitter. And it's not even in a funny way. It's just kind of like, okay, we get it.
So, bare bones plot for you. Just to catch you up from Goon without giving too many spoilers away. Seann William Scott plays the title character. He's the Goon. He plays hockey because he can fight. He's there to protect the star players if someone hits them, and he basically knocks them the fuck out. His character's name is Doug. They call him Doug the Thug. He's awesome. He can fight. He can barely play hockey, but he can fight. So whatever. That's kind of the whole thing that goes on with him. he's also dumber than a box of rocks. That being said, he's like a lovable dumb guy in the first one, and in this sequel, they've kind of just turned him into this like almost impossibly stupid human being that he doesn't seem like a real character anymore. He doesn't seem like a real person. He just seems like a poorly written idiot.
Yeah, I mean, he's almost robotic, and, you know, some of the stuff he says, especially in the first one, he's more of like a regular guy, and then the more you talk to him, the more you're like, wow, there's not much going on upstairs. But in this one, it's just immediate. He can barely string words together. I mean, it was way over the top on that.
So the other character that they did this to was Jay Baruchel's character, who plays Maddie, the best friend of Doug's, who doesn't play hockey. He's just kind of a burnout, kind of a waste. And he was kind of a waste in the first movie, too. And he was the, like, foul-mouthed little shit, basically. That's kind of the best way I can describe him. And then in the sequel, he just is a complete fucking train wreck beyond belief. Like, his life has completely fallen apart. And I just feel like it was a little too much. It was unnecessary.
There were better ways to do it. I mean, I think you could have still done those things without shoving it down people's throats. It really pisses me off when movies basically question the intelligence of the viewer. Like, you don't have to explain it and, like, really hammer it home to me. I can pick up what you're putting down.
One other thing I gotta say that I was disappointed in. Kim Coates is a great character actor. He's in Sons of Anarchy. He plays the coach. And in the first movie, he has got some of the best lines and monologues in the entire movie. He's hilarious. He's like one of the best coaches in all of movies. And then in the sequel, I feel like they damn near wrote him out of the movie. Like, he just didn't have the dialogue, or he didn't have the lines that he had in the previous film. And that was a huge letdown, because I feel like you took out one of the best parts of the first movie by giving this guy less to do.
I can't really speak too much to him, but still agreed. I mean, it was kind of a bummer. It was okay to watch. It wasn't, like, painful to get through. Probably the brighter spot in the whole movie is Wyatt Russell, who, you know, is playing the antagonist to Doug's good guy. And he is funny. I mean, like, he has good timing. He has good delivery of, you know, the lines he has to work with. And I thought that his scenes were pretty good. He wasn't over the top, I would not say. So he did well in it. But, you know, that's just saying all you can say about it.
I guess I kind of disagree on Wyatt Russell. I love Wyatt Russell. Don't get me wrong. I thought he was excellent in 22 Jump Street. I thought he was good in Ingrid Goes West. I thought he was a little over the top in this. And the whole movie was a little over the top, so I don't think that's necessarily his fault. But I didn't love where they took his character. I thought he was a little too ridiculous. And again, like, they played up Seann William Scott's character as being incredibly stupid. They played up this character as being so over the top, like, crazy, like mentally ill crazy, that it was almost unbelievable.
Yeah, the further it went on, the more it got into the crazy realm. Some of the scenes he has with his dad, who owns one of the hockey teams, and was obviously like a star player himself, things like that. So you got the family legacy thing going on. I thought that some of their interactions were funny. Just his line delivery on little one-liners here and there. But yeah, I mean, overall, the writing was bad, so you can only do so much to salvage it.
By the way, the guy that played the owner of the team, the Wyatt Russell's character's dad, that was Michael Biehn. I didn't recognize him in the movie at first because I haven't seen him in anything in a while, but now that I think about it, it was definitely him. It's Corporal Hicks from Aliens. He's also What's-His-Face, the guy that travels back in time in Terminator. I don't think Dana's familiar enough with these movies to remember those characters, but she will be one day, and we'll have her talk about it in another episode.
Hey, I'm up to date. I'm caught up on Alien. All the Aliens movies.
Okay, so Hicks, you remember Hicks?
Sure.
He's like the main Marine from the second one, from Aliens.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, I'm on board.
He's the only fucking one that survives.
Right.
Okay, cool. We're good. You haven't seen Terminator yet, though, right?
No.
Yeah, see there. Yeah, all right. Okay. And I have to give a shout out to Liev Schreiber because he was probably one of the best parts of the first one. And he was in this one prominently as well. He was in the sequel. And Liev Schreiber is great. Plays a character called Ross the Boss Ray. And it's like an aging, kind of like ready to retire veteran player. And he's a great actor. I thought they gave him a great role in this movie. I thought he had the best role in the whole movie, to be honest with you. His character seems like the most real of all of the characters. Like, he's the only character that is not a complete crazy person, basically.
Yeah, they pretty much kept his character pretty stable, albeit aged, which makes sense because it takes place, after the first one. But yeah, they didn't make him a caricature of himself, from the previous movie. So yeah, he was good too.
So I know we've been shit talking this movie. It's not terrible. It's worth watching once it gets to Netflix and you can see it for free. It's worth watching. It is pretty funny, but it's not. It doesn't live up to the original. I can't stress enough that go on Netflix like right now. Watch Goon. Goon is a great movie. If you have any interest in sports movies, hockey movies, or to be honest, even if you just like to laugh a lot, Goon is a great movie. So watch it. You'll enjoy it. I guarantee it. The sequel, just bear in mind that it's not a terrible movie. It's just not nearly as good as the original. So when you do watch it, go in with lower expectations, and I think you'll enjoy it a whole lot more than I did.
Same.
Okay, so yeah, if I'm gonna score it, I'm gonna give it like a 5 out of 10. It was serviceable and it was worth watching once on Netflix, but that's about it.
Yeah, I'd give it about a 4. But obviously, I didn't have the emotional investment in the first one that you have. So, but yeah, 4.5. We'll go 4.5.
All right, that's fair. So the next movie that we are reviewing, we're doing 3 new releases today. This is one that Dana was super pissed that I decided that we were going to go see and review for this episode, because I thought that we need to be impartial and we need to not just pick out movies to review that we know we're going to like or we think we're going to like. That's not fair.
How do you feel about that decision now?
I think I enjoyed the film Home Again with Reese Witherspoon as much as I enjoyed Goon: Last of the Enforcers, if that makes you feel any better.
All right, fair enough.
So, we're reviewing Home Again, starring Reese Witherspoon. Going into this movie, I expected it to be hot garbage. The poster for this movie, you gotta look up the poster for this movie, because it's just a big red splotch of color with Reese Witherspoon's dumb fucking face and the letters HOMEAGAIN. That's right. It's the title and Reese Witherspoon's face and nothing else. They literally had no fucking way to market this movie to anybody except for saying, we got this movie and it's about Reese Witherspoon, kinda. She's in it. Here's her face. Go fucking see it.
This was, there was one thing in a preview or a trailer that I heard that pissed me off more than anything was Reese Witherspoon in the role she was born to play. Really? An Academy Award nominated actress in a fantastic film, Wild, if you haven't seen it. It is an amazing movie. She was incredible in that film, and she is actually a decent actress with some, real acting chops. But this is the role she was born to play, this one right here?
She was born to play a role that gives her pretty much nothing to do the whole movie except hang out at home with her kids.
She's 40. She's a mom. That's it. That's all you're born to do, Reese Witherspoon.
She literally just fucking she does nothing. She's not even the main character in the movie. She might have the most screen time overall, but she has no fucking arc. Like, her character arc is at the beginning of the movie. She is separated from her husband. By the end of the movie, she decides she's going to take that separation and make it a divorce. literally her entire character arc. That's all that happens to her the entire movie.
And honestly, you didn't get the sense throughout the film that she was really on the fence about it. It's not like you thought they were super going to get back together and she's really struggling with it. She was just kind of sad, and then by the end, she's kind of a little bit less sad.
Well, they didn't really make it clear that they were divorced in the beginning anyways. I thought they were divorced from the start until later on in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, they said separated, but exactly, that wasn't the focus of the film.
So, the focus of the movie was probably the three young men who, if you've seen the trailer, they, like, meet her at a party or, like, at a club, and it's her birthday, and this young guy, like, hooks up with her, and his two buddies end up crashing at her place. And they end up staying there because they're, like, broke, you know, aspiring filmmakers living in Hollywood. They got no money. They're going to live at her place for a while, whatever. The movie's really about them because they're the ones that have actual plot points and character arcs. They go through changes. They accomplish things. They're the only ones that really do anything in this movie. And I think for the most part, like more than half of the time at least, they work pretty well. There's 3 of them. 2 of them I liked. 1 of them I didn't like. But even he was like, okay sometimes. So, I mean, you know, they did all right.
He was very inconsistent. There was times that this guy was endearing. This is sort of the, I guess you can say, love interest of Reese Witherspoon, even though nothing really happens there, but that's sort of their thing. But a lot of times he was real smarmy, and I just wanted to, you know, kick him a little bit. Like, he was set up to be kind of a douchebag, and sort of a womanizer, but, like, that was sort of okay, or they're like, well, that's just how he is. Like,
well,
it's...
Listen, here's I'm gonna give you 3. These are the 3 characters. There's the one that Dana was just talking about. He's the one that bangs Reese Witherspoon. So there's the Reese banger. We're gonna call him the Reese banger. Then we've got the other one who is the nice guy. We got the nice guy. Then there's the other one who's just the third one.
He's the kid brother of the Reese banger, if you wanted to put it that way.
There you go. So you've got the Reese banger, the nice guy, and the kid brother. So the Reese banger is very annoying throughout a lot of this movie. He's way too fucking high on himself and arrogant and smarmy, and he's a little shit. And even just his facial expressions just made me want to knock him the fuck out.
Yeah. Oh no, there was lots of salty looks on my end to Matt in the theater of why did you make me go see this?
Now, of the 3, the nice guy, who is like, so they're like a movie making team. So the nice guy is the screenwriter. He was very likable. I thought his character actually was given, in the end, kind of the most to do overall, maybe. I don't know. I enjoyed his character the most. And then the kid brother kind of ended up maybe getting like written out of this movie a little bit here and there. I feel like he got less lines than he maybe would have. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, it seemed like some of his actions in the movie too, the kid brother, were a little off the wall. You could pretty much see everyone's motivation for wanting to, you know, stay at Reese Witherspoon's house and be friends with her. Obviously, the guy that was banging her wanted to keep banging her and, you know, see if that could turn into something real. The nice guy seemed to be the more realistic of the 3, and, you know, was using it as an opportunity to have some place to stay and get work done and still pull his weight around the house, if you will. The kid brother was just like, I just like staying with a family. Like, what?
Oh, and let me also point out that one of the reasons they decide to stay here is because Reese Witherspoon's character is the daughter of, like, a famous director who is dead before the movie starts. Basically, they kind of make him out to be this, like, John Cassavetes, like, made like, some pretty successful, like, you know, independent, like, romance movies, kind of like, they almost seemed like kind of French New Wavy type movies that he was making. So I think it's like a Cassavetes type. And so, you know, of course, she like inherited this like fucking giant compound in Los Angeles where they had like a massive guest house where these guys could stay for free or whatever, and they also, you know, got to like sit in the dude's director's chair that he did when he made the movie that they all love or something. Like, whatever. It was basically a plot point that they used, but they didn't really use it to great effect. It didn't really end up coming. It didn't end up meaning anything, unfortunately.
Yeah, you were kind of waiting for it to come back around that she was going to have some kind of connection because of her father, or like that something was going to work out well for the three of them because of knowing her or getting to experience something about the director dad, and it just kind of didn't happen. It was kind of a cool extra device, I guess, but it didn't really serve any purpose.
No, the only other thing we really got to touch on with this movie is Michael Sheen, who plays Reese Witherspoon's ex-husband / separated husband / divorced husband / bearded chubby man.
You know, who's adorable, but I might be biased.
Well, okay. Michael Sheen is an actor that I really enjoy. He's a person I really enjoy. That being said, this is not his best movie. This might be his worst movie. He was really kind of obnoxious, I thought, and I thought that his character was poorly written, and he kind of seemed like he pulled a 180 real fast at the end of the movie for no reason. He wasn't likable. Then all of a sudden, like, we were supposed to kind of like not mind him too much, and there was no real reason for us to not still hate him, I guess. I don't know.
I guess I didn't really hate him. I feel like he was kind of supposed to be sort of wishy-washy. He was the a-hole dad. He wasn't really there for his kids. You know, he really only did things that were convenient for him. Kind of typical story. And then, yeah, it was like all was sort of forgiven, and there just wasn't a whole lot of resolution to it. But I didn't hate him. One point that you just made me think of, you wouldn't say that this was a role that Michael Sheen was born to play?
No, clearly that was his role in the Underworld series.
Listen, I'm just saying, I'll go off on a mini feminist rant here. People only say shit like that about women, and it's just a ridiculous statement. The movie was fine overall. I'm not saying I hated every minute of it or couldn't sit through it. I even laughed at a couple parts. It's totally a fine rainy day. You're doing some laundry. You have this movie on TV with commercial breaks in the background. But yeah, just to say that someone who's done far superior movies, that this is their big role when she really doesn't even do anything, it's just insane.
Yep, it was, you know, as far as romantic comedies go, I've definitely seen a lot worse. So, you know, it's a date movie, I guess. You know, if you're gonna have someone over to Netflix and chill, and this happens to be on a year from now, I wouldn't be against somebody watching this movie while they make out. That would be fine with me. I think that would be a appropriate use of the film Home Again.
Yeah, I mean, if it can do some good in the world, you know, then and can get some people laid, then I'm all for it.
But yeah, don't go into it expecting anything more than a very middle-of-the-road romantic comedy with better-than-average talent put to horrible use.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I would say the talent at least made the film more tolerable. I'm sure if it had had more unknowns or lesser actors and actresses, then it probably would have been a little bit more unbearable. But like I say, it was fine. I'm not a huge romantic comedy person to begin with, but this one was, you know, C+, 4.5 out of 10. my rating's all over the place.
4.5 out of 10 is a C+ for you?
There's no math being done here today.
That's like an F in like any school in America.
I was gonna say 5, but
that's still an F in any school in America.
I know. Listen,
pick a system. It's a 4 out of 10. There is no letter grade. It fucking
I do what I want. I do what I want. You're not the boss of me.
All right, 4 out of 10, 4.5 out of 10. Either way, don't go see this movie. Don't pay for it. Wait for free, and use it to get laid or something. Whatever. So, unfortunately, we're not done talking about romantic comedies. However, we're going to talk about better romantic comedies than the movie Home Again. We're going to jump into our top 5 list. And our top 5 list this week is our top 5 romantic comedies. All of these are significantly better than the movie Home Again.
I don't know what's on your list, but I agree.
Okay, well, I'm gonna let Dana start it off with her number 5 this time.
I'm going to start my number 5 here, which I feel like this is definitely going to be on your list also. But we did not compare notes beforehand, so spoilers and surprises here. I had as my number 5, Crazy Stupid Love with Ryan Gosling and, Steve Carell.
Crazy Stupid Love is on my list. That is correct. Because I have a giant man boner for Ryan Gosling.
A man boner.
It's a boner that I have for another man.
Okay. All right. I'm fine with that.
To define it.
I think I had seen this movie kind of in passing. Matt likes it a lot, obviously. And I think in rewatching a movie sometimes with someone who really likes it can kind of make you like it a little bit more. But, I mean, who can go wrong with Ryan Gosling and Steve Carell anyway? They're both funny. They're both endearing in this movie. Emma Stone is great in this movie. And Julianne Moore? Yeah.
Julianne Moore.
And Kevin Bacon's in it too, and Kevin Bacon plays his role very well as well.
You know who else is in it? Someone that I have not brought up on this show yet that needs to be brought up because I bring him up all the time to you and you never remember him. John Carroll Lynch is in this movie, my favorite character actor. John Carroll Lynch. Look him up. IMDb. He's awesome.
Who does he play in this one? Oh, is it the...
He plays the babysitter's dad.
It's the one who meets him at the bar, right? And gives him the present. Okay.
Yeah.
I just had to pick a scene to fully verify that.
If you guys don't know who John Carroll Lynch is, obviously, if you're on your computers or whatever while you're listening, look him up while you're listening. But if you're like listening on your phone or whatever, he's the big dude that they assume is the killer in the movie Zodiac. That's probably one of his more recognizable roles. He's in a ton of shit though. TVs, movies. He played Twisty the Clown in American Horror Story.
Oh, yeah.
He's also in Walking Dead. He has a really great cameo. It's actually an Emmy-nominated cameo in Walking Dead. He's the, guy that lives out in the woods that teaches Morgan how to fight with a stick.
Oh, yeah. See, he is in everything.
Yeah,
you forget
he's
about
in
him.
everything, and he's awesome in literally everything. So
he
John
was
Carroll
super
Lynch...
creepy in The Invitation. He's in that one, right? That's him, right?
Yeah, The Invitation's a movie. That's like one of those hidden gems we got to review one of these days. So
we will.
But getting back to Crazy Stupid Love and not John Carroll Lynch, everything about this movie I love in a crazy stupid way. Man, that was dumb.
You just got to keep going with that, man. Just power through.
All right. Well, this was your part of the list. Listen, this was my number 3. So I guess we'll talk about it doubly long here because it was on both of our lists and I can just skip over it in mine. My primary reasoning being that this was the first movie featuring Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. They are, in my opinion, after La La Land, they're basically like the new Meg Ryan, Tom Hanks. They're the Hollywood couple. Not together in real life couple, but in movies when they're together, that's a good combination, and it fucking works.
Yeah, I do like them together. What's funny is that when we saw La La Land, I forgot all about Crazy Stupid Love and forgot that they were a couple in that also. So when people were talking about them already having been a couple in movies, I thought, in what? But I have a bad memory sometimes. I just love Ryan Gosling's character, that he's such a tool and such a ladies' man and just uses these shameless tricks to get women into bed. And then, of course, eventually, you see he's a real person and just insecure. This is what all women want to think, is that they can, get down to the real person underneath, that they're just insecure boys that look nice also.
So my number 5 is 40-Year-Old Virgin. So we're having another Steve Carell movie here. We're having just a little Steve Carell love fest.
Yeah, I could have put that on there. That's a good one, too.
I think everyone loves 40-Year-Old Virgin. I don't think I've met anybody that doesn't like this movie. And I could have put, I'm going to be honest, I tried not to go like Judd Apatow overboard here. Because, you could have put 40-Year-Old Virgin. You could have put Knocked Up. I could have put This Is 40. I could have put Forgetting Sarah Marshall that he produced. I mean, there's a lot of romantic comedies.
I gotta interject, though, on Judd Apatow. I would say for romantic comedies specifically, I mean, I know all those movies fall under that. 40-Year-Old Virgin is definitely the best one. I mean, Knocked Up is funny, but Seth Rogen and What's-Her-Face are terrible together. Like, that's not even a believable couple.
Well, listen, Knocked Up sucks because Katherine Heigl sucks as a person and as an actress. And she needs to just chain smoke her ass to the unemployment line and not act ever again. God, I hate Katherine Heigl.
So anyway, sorry, you can continue unless you're ready for me to jump in.
Oh, no, I just, everyone's seen the 40-Year-Old Virgin. I don't need to, read its praises, I don't think. But it made a lot of careers. I mean, Seth Rogen, Paul Rudd, Ken Jeong. You've got a ton of people that didn't really have a lot going on before that movie. Kat Denning is in that movie, too. She's, What's-Her-Face's daughter, the Catherine Keener.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and Catherine Keener is great, too. She's underrated.
She is an underutilized talent as well. 40-Year-Old Virgin, hilarious movie. Kind of turned Steve Carell into, an A-lister, along with his role in The Office, obviously. Great movie, great romantic comedy. Way funnier than your average romantic comedy as well.
Okay, my number 4. I begrudgingly say this, even though I do think it's a great movie. And we're going to, serve it on back to Ryan Gosling here. I'm going to go with The Notebook. I avoided The Notebook. I didn't want to see The Notebook. I thought it looked stupid. I don't like Nicholas Sparks. I did not want to see this movie. I didn't want to like this movie.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I get the romantic part of The Notebook, but where's the comedy?
Oh, shit. All right, I might have strayed off here. That's okay. I have an honorable mention a little bit later. I guess this one is not a comedy. It's more of just a romantic movie. This is
just the saddest romance of all time. A romantic tragedy.
This is what happens when we don't compare our lists before we do this.
Well, we like to have those real, genuine reactions, but what we end up with is a list that contains a romantic tragedy.
Hey, listen, I'm known for going off the list, okay? I do what I want here. So it's not a comedy.
No, Dana just thinks Alzheimer's is fucking hilarious.
It's not a comedy. I didn't want to see the movie, though, and I was convinced to watch it, albeit at home, which was the place to see it. I would not have really wanted to pay for this movie. But in terms of love story, I guess that's what I was focusing on. I'm looking at my list now to make sure that my other ones aren't. Okay. It is a good love story. Rachel McAdams, Ryan Gosling, you can't deny that. Although I still will always say that the closing scene of this film, I don't know why, everyone I'm sure knows how it ends, but the last actual scene of the film is ducks or geese out on the pond, which really didn't have much to do with anything and pisses me off. It should have been a shot of, say, a photo album with a picture of the two of them as young people. That's what it should have been. That's how it should have closed, fade to black.
It also wasn't a romantic comedy. So your list is bullshit.
That's just one part of the list.
Would you like to just replace The Notebook with The Princess Bride, which I know you love?
Oh, I like that one too. That's a good one too. I had Love Actually as an honorable mention on here, so fine.
Well, why don't we stop talking about Love Actually, because number 4 on my list is Love Actually. See how this works? You fuck. You ruin my list, and you just pick a non-comedy. This is some bullshit.
I'm a list ruiner this week.
What a bunch of bull ass shit. All right, number 4 on Matt's awesome list of movies that are actually romantic comedies. Love Actually.
I like
go
it
ahead.
too.
Oh, go ahead. Don't let me stop you.
It's your list. That's yours. Go ahead.
Okay. Listen. All you really need to know about this movie is A, it's a Christmas movie, and I love Christmas movies. B, Hugh Grant's in it. And Hugh Grant is one of those guys that I don't care how creepy or old he gets. I don't care that he was out banging prostitutes. More power to him. I think he is adorable. And I will watch anything starring Hugh Grant.
Listen, Love Actually has some fantastic actors and actresses. It only got an honorable mention on my list, or replacing The Notebook, or whatever the hell you want to say, because upon rewatching as an adult, it does give some pretty shitty messages about relationships. So it's harder for me to see it through the same lens.
Listen, I'm not going to say that Love Actually is like a good movie. This is my personal list. And if I want to include my personal guilty pleasure romantic comedy, then I'm going to fucking do it. And I have seen Love Actually more than I've watched any of these other movies, with the exception of one, which is number 2 on my list. But I watch this movie every year. I love almost all of the storylines. The only one I don't love is the Alan Rickman one, because it's sad, and I don't like being sad when I'm watching a romantic comedy. If I wanted to be sad, I'd watch The Notebook.
This is true. And Alan Rickman, what are you doing to Emma Thompson? That was like the most foolish, course of action, which I know he realizes that, but that secretary wasn't even that good looking. Like, Emma Thompson, I would do Emma Thompson over that secretary. Just saying. Even old Emma Thompson, I'm fine. I'll get down.
What about Nanny McPhee?
I mean, I guess I'd really have to try a little bit harder for Nanny McPhee. So I'd say I'm gonna shelve.
You think Nanny McPhee? She, you know what though? She's gotta be. She knows all kinds of magic and shit. She's probably got some tricks up her sleeve.
Agreed.
Just saying, Nanny McPhee, Alan Rickman, you fucked up. Should have got down with Nanny McPhee.
All right, are we moving ahead here?
Get to your next one. Hopefully, it's a comedy.
It is. My number 3 is 10 Things I Hate About You. Is this also on your list?
No, this was definitely one that I debated putting on my list. I love this movie as well.
Okay. So, yes, 10 Things I Hate About You. I love it, even though, of course, if you look at the actual events of the storyline, it's super silly. But it's based on a Shakespearean play, which is fun. Modern reimagining.
The Taming of the Shrew for you uncultured assholes listening right now.
Yep, see, there you go. Honestly, this is maybe, like, my favorite thing that Julia Stiles has ever done. Not that that's saying a whole lot, but, like, I feel like she strayed. Like, she should have stayed, at least, maybe not in romantic comedies, but, she hasn't done too much lately.
She was good in the Bourne movies.
Yeah,
It wasn't a big role, but she was good. Save the Last Dance.
That was also good. I feel like that came out right around the same time as 10 Things I Hate About You.
Okay, this is gonna be bad. Was she in the movie O, which was the modern retelling of Othello?
Oh,
Or am I just thinking of another movie where she falls in I don't want to mix up my movies about interracial relationships here.
Yeah, I'm trying to search it. We're messing up here.
I might fuck this. This is bad. I don't want to be that guy that just thinks that any movie with an interracial relationship is Julia Stiles. That seems very bad by me.
But all sorts of funny things. The dad is funny. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, little baby Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's so cute in this. Everyone's adorable in this movie.
Little baby David Krumholtz, spouting out Shakespeare.
Yes, all of them, all of the above.
Heath fucking Ledger. That's right. Heath Ledger is the man. I wish Heath Ledger had not died. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. This guy, because that was a stupid thing to say. Like as if you guys all thought that I just was hoping he would die. I personally think that Heath Ledger would have gone on to be probably one of the top. He'd be like a Daniel Day-Lewis type at this point. I feel like he was like a dominant actor in his last handful of roles. He was he just kept getting better. It's the kind of trajectory that I feel like his co-star in Brokeback Mountain ended up taking instead of him, Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal, for my money, is the best actor in Hollywood right now, and I think that probably would have been the case with Heath Ledger as well had he not passed away.
Yeah, for sure. We talked about them when we actually talked about Brokeback Mountain, or did we talk about Brokeback Mountain? We talked about it. It was on a list.
You talked about Brokeback Mountain because of Anne Hathaway's tits.
Yeah, there we go. Princess Diaries titties. Okay. Would you like to go ahead with your number 2?
Yeah, we're skipping my number 3 because it was Crazy Stupid Love, and we already talked about it. So now my number 2 is Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day is possibly one of the greatest movies of all time, let alone romantic comedy. This movie is perfect in many ways. This might be my, I don't know. This is like a number 1A or 1B maybe. Like this is like my 1B. It's like tied for number 1. I've seen this movie a million times. This movie's on TV all the time. This is like one of those TBS, TNT. It's literally on once every month or two, and I will watch it every single time. Bill Murray's outstanding. Andy McDowell's outstanding. Chris Elliott is funny. Directed by Harold Ramis. Harold Ramis like fucking got super pissed at Bill Murray, and they like didn't talk after this movie for years and years and years. And I'm moving my hand around, making all kinds of noise and shit. This movie's awesome. I don't know anybody that does not like this movie.
I used to not like this movie. I say used to because I think I saw it a few too many times, and obviously it's a very repetitive film. So I needed a break from it. But upon rewatching, as an adult, it's a great film. You don't have to look at me that way.
It's a tragedy, you not liking this film as a child. It's like The Notebook.
I did like this movie as a child also. I'm on board with you.
Okay, what's your number 2? Beat Groundhog Day. Try.
I think this is a classic movie, one of the best movies, romantic comedies, what have you. And it features another actor that has been mentioned in these other movies, Clueless, with Alicia Silverstone and Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd's adorable, and there's no doubt that it's a comedy. This movie, I think, holds up fantastically.
It's a great movie. What is this? Was Amy Heckerling that did this movie, right?
Yes, she did.
And she did, what did she do, like Fast Times as well, I think?
I don't know about Fast Times. I know she did, Heathers, and that was her, right? Oh,
I thought she did Fast Times. I don't know.
I'm branching out here.
Clueless is great. It's one of those, it's one of those movies that was cool to watch. Like, this came out when I was pretty young. And it was obviously a movie where the main characters were all female, but it didn't matter. Like, this was not one of those movies where you had to be embarrassed of as, like, a little boy watching this movie. Like, it was a cool movie to watch no matter who you were. And it was very indicative of the time, obviously. It's a little... It's like a period piece now almost because it's so obviously 90s.
It is, but I don't think that it's to the point where, say, if like a teenager today watched it, that they wouldn't get it or think it was dumb. I mean, they still had cell phones. Obviously, they didn't have smartphones. So, there were things that they ran into that maybe they wouldn't have in today's day and age. I feel like people have tried to recreate it. It's just not possible. It just was a perfect movie all on its own. It's got great one-liners that sometimes you kind of don't pick up on right away. I love this movie.
And let's not forget that the main character ends up with her love interest, who is also her stepbrother.
I'm okay. They were divorced. It's fine. They're so cute. You just have to love it. Come on, if we're okay with some, I guess maybe I don't want to do some spoilers for something else here. All right, fine. If we're okay with Cersei Lannister and Jaime Lannister, there's no spoilers there, then come on, we can be okay with people who are not even real siblings.
We're fictional universe, okay? Last time I checked, Clueless takes place on Earth.
Yeah.
With humans.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even know if in Game of Thrones, we don't even know if they're actually human, the Lannisters. They might have, 3 dicks.
If that was true, they would have showed all of those by now.
That's true. It'd be like
HBO would love that shit.
Their prosthetics budget would quadruple.
Anyway, let's move on here because I'm peeking at your number 1, and I want you to go ahead with it now.
Oh, is it your number 1 also?
Nope, go ahead.
Oh, so my number 1 is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which...
I have a question for you.
Yes, continue.
Would you say that this movie is a comedy?
I would say that this movie begins as a comedy, and I would say that for large portions of the movie, it is comical, and a lot of the situations are hilarious. I would say that this is a movie that can definitely be considered melancholy as well.
Listen, I think this is a stretch here. I did not find this movie funny. at all. It's been a long time since I've seen it, and yes,
It's
straight
up
off
and down. It's
I strayed off the path of comedy with The Notebook because there's nothing funny about The Notebook. It's funny that there's nothing funny about The Notebook.
I mean, unless you really like watching James Marsden suffer.
But I would not put this under a romantic comedy at all. It's a sad movie. It's really sad.
I don't know. I mean, I think that you have to... This can at least be viewed through a lens where you see it as kind of a like dark comedy. Along the lines like, listen, I'm sorry, if The Lobster can be viewed as a dark comedy, then Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind can be viewed as a dark comedy.
We know how I feel about The Lobster,
yes.
And I do not think that that is a dark comedy either.
Well, let's check on IMDb and see what genres they have it under, because let's read some reviews about The Lobster. It's a dark comedy.
IMDb is not the boss of me either.
The fact that, listen, it's a very dark comedy. Some of the comedy comes from the situational aspect of the thing. It's much more serious than all of the other ones I have listed here, but I also think it's a good enough movie to include on this list. Like, it has to be there. It's technically a romantic comedy, I think. If you disagree, well, fuck it. We put The Notebook on one of the lists, too, so I guess we have no credibility.
Same seats, okay. All right, so my number one... Yes, because I already did number two. Number one is Amelie. And this one is not as comical either, but it's definitely not... It's still lighthearted and in no way...
is pretty funny.
Yeah, it's in no way dark.
It's absurdist comedy. It's funny.
Yes. So,
it's also in French. Subtitles galore.
I know. I love this movie. I love everything about this movie. I took French in high school and cannot speak one word of it now, but I like to watch the movie and read the subtitles and pretend that I'm just like listening to it in French and understanding it. It's just a personal, fantasy of mine. But no, she's so cute and she's so likable, and the other characters are likable and adorable. It's the most adorable movie like of all time, and it's about love, and I love love, and it's great.
Well, okay. Those are our top 10, top 8, top 7, whatever. Those are like 7 romantic comedies and a couple that are questionable. But either way, there's our lists. They're better than Home Again. Don't go see Home Again. That's the moral of the story today. So next week we're going to be seeing Darren Aronofsky's Mother with Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem and Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer and fucking everybody else in the world, I guess. We're not sure what else we're going to see yet. We're kind of playing it by ear to see what other new releases we end up seeing. If anyone has any recommendations for another movie to review next week, please email us at cinemamdpodcast@gmail.com or send us a message on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Give us some recommendations for older movies you want to see us review. We'd be happy to review those. We're always looking for suggestions. That being said, also, if you're a listener and you're subscribing on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you're subscribing, please leave us a review. Even if you're just listening on our website, if you have an iTunes account, leave us a review on iTunes. Like, every little review helps, kind of pushes us up the search engine on iTunes a little bit. And the more listeners, the better. We'd like to have, more listener interaction and suggestions and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, follow us on social media, subscribe, leave reviews. Good stuff. And thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
See ya.